My name is James Westbrook, and I need to tell you about the Sunday afternoon that destroyed everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, and the woman I'd loved for 12 years. It was April 2nd, 2023, and I was sitting in my home office in Pasadena, California, doing what I did every year around this time, preparing our tax returns. Outside, the Southern California sun was painting everything golden, the kind of light that made our Spanish colonial home look like something out of Architectural Digest. Emily had fallen in love with this house the moment we'd seen it 5 years ago. "Look at that view, James," she'd said, standing on the terrace that overlooked the San Gabriel Mountains. "We could be happy here, really happy." We'd bought it the next week, stretching our budget but confident in our dual incomes. Mine from Preston, Whitman and Associates, one of the big four accounting firms where I'd just made senior manager, and hers from her thriving freelance graphic design business. The house was quiet, except for the distant sound of Emily's music drifting from her office down the hall. She always worked to jazz on Sundays, said it helped her creativity flow. Coltrane today, it sounded like. She'd converted one of our 5 bedrooms into her studio. We didn't need them for children. That had been a mutual decision on our 5th anniversary. "Let's focus on building our careers," she'd said over champagne at the French Laundry, where we'd splurged for the celebration. "Let's travel, experience life, be those couples that everyone envies because we have freedom." I'd agreed readily. My career was demanding enough, and Emily's business required constant attention. Kids would have complicated everything. Now, 7 years later, I sat surrounded by neat stacks of receipts, 1099 forms, and bank statements. This was my process, honed over 15 years as a CPA specializing in forensic accounting. I approached our personal taxes with the same meticulous attention I gave to corporate audits worth millions. "Hey, Em," I called out, not looking up from my monitor. "Can you come here for a minute?" I heard her footsteps in the hallway, the soft padding of her weekend slippers. She appeared in my doorway wearing black yoga pants and an oversized UCLA sweatshirt, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. Even dressed down, she was beautiful. That effortless kind of beauty that had first caught my attention at that financial planning seminar 13 years ago. "What's up, babe?" she asked, leaning against the doorframe. "Please tell me we're getting a refund. I've been eyeing this new design software that would really upgrade my capabilities." "We should be fine on the refund," I said, turning my monitor toward her. "But I'm trying to reconcile something. Last year, you had 5 clients who issued 1099S, Brennan Design, TechFlow, Martinez Architecture, Cloud9 Marketing, and Biogen Solutions. This year, I'm only seeing 3. What happened to Brennan and TechFlow?" She shifted her weight slightly, a movement so subtle I almost missed it. "Oh, Brennan went under, actually. Remember I mentioned that? The owner, David Brennan, went through this horrible divorce. His wife got half the business in the settlement, and they couldn't agree on anything, so they just dissolved it. Really sad, actually. He was a good client. And TechFlow? They got their Series B funding in January and decided to bring everything in-house. Hired a whole design team, basically built their own internal agency. It happens." She shrugged. "The startup world is brutal that way. They use you when they're small, then forget you when they hit it big." It all sounded perfectly reasonable. The gig economy was volatile. Clients came and went. I made notes in my spreadsheet and moved on. "Your income is actually up, though," I observed, scrolling through our bank statements. "That's impressive, considering you lost 2 major clients." "I picked up a bunch of smaller projects," she said, already moving away from the door. "Lots of startups needing quick turnarounds. Logos, business cards, basic brand packages. Most of them pay in cash or Venmo. You know how these young entrepreneurs are. They barely have formal business structures. I've been meaning to organize those records better." That should have been my first real warning. Emily was obsessively organized. She had filing systems for everything, color-coded folders for receipts from 3 years ago, spreadsheets tracking every business expense down to the penny. The idea that she'd been casually accepting cash payments without documentation was completely out of character. But this was Emily. My Emily. The woman who'd stood by me through the grueling years of my CPA certification, who'd celebrated with champagne when I'd passed all 4 parts on the first try, who'd moved her entire business without complaint when my promotion required relocating from San Diego to Pasadena. March Madness starts in an hour, she said from the hallway. UCLA's playing. Your boys need your support. I'll be there, I promised, already turning back to my screen. The next 45 minutes changed everything. I was reviewing our software subscriptions, categorizing them for potential business deductions, when I noticed something odd. Emily's Adobe Creative Suite subscription showed 2 separate charges. The first was her standard $49.99 monthly fee, charged to her business credit card like always. But there was a second charge, $2,500 monthly, being paid by something called Morrison Creative LLC. I stared at the screen, trying to make sense of it. Why would another company be paying for Emily's software? And why at such an inflated rate? Adobe Creative Suite cost $600 annually. This company was paying $30,000 a year for a $600 subscription. My forensic accounting instincts kicked in immediately. This wasn't right. This was the kind of transaction I'd flag in a corporate audit. Payment significantly exceeding fair market value, suggesting either money laundering, kickbacks, or hidden compensation. I pulled up the California Secretary of State website and searched for Morrison Creative LLC. The results loaded quickly. Registered January 2023. Principal address, 1247 South Spring Street, Suite 450, Los Angeles. Managing member, Bradley Morrison, Bradley Morrison. The name was vaguely familiar, tugging at some distant memory. I opened Emily's LinkedIn profile, something I rarely did. She was always networking, always adding connections, building her freelance base. I searched her connections for Bradley Morrison. There he was. UCLA, class of 2001, same as Emily. His profile photo showed a man in his early 40s, professionally shot, wearing a casual blazer and designer glasses. Salt and pepper beard, confident smile. Creative director and founder, Morrison Creative LLC. His recent activity made my stomach tighten. Comments on virtually every post Emily had made in the past year. Exceptional work as always. Your talent continues to inspire. Looking forward to our next collaboration. Brilliant as usual. Every comment accompanied by multiple emojis, hearts, fire, clapping hands. I clicked on his full profile. Divorced, 2 kids. His company website was sophisticated, the kind of design that whispered money and success. Client list included several Fortune 500 companies, major nonprofits, political campaigns. This wasn't some struggling entrepreneur. This was a very successful businessman. So why was he paying $2,500 a month for Emily's Adobe subscription? And why hadn't Emily mentioned this significant client relationship? I went back to our bank statements with fresh eyes, looking for patterns. January 15th, 2023. Deposit of $2,500 to Emily's business account. Description: design services. February 15th, another $2,500. March 15th, same thing. Every month like clockwork for 14 months. $35,000 total. But here's what made my chest tighten. I had full access to Emily's QuickBooks account. She'd given me the credentials years ago so I could help with quarterly tax estimates and business planning. I logged in and searched for Morrison Creative LLC. Nothing. I searched for Bradley Morrison. Nothing. I searched for any invoices totaling $2,500. Nothing for the past 14 months. $35,000 of income with absolutely no documentation. No invoices, no contracts, no project descriptions, no deliverables outlined. In 12 years of helping Emily with her business, I'd never seen her accept a payment without proper documentation. She was meticulous about it, often spending hours on paperwork to ensure everything was properly recorded. I stood up, walked to the window, tried to steady my breathing. There had to be an explanation. Maybe she'd forgotten to enter the invoices. Maybe she was using a different accounting system for this client. Maybe... James! Game's starting! Your beer's getting warm! Emily's voice carried from the living room, cheerful and normal. Coming! I called back, but I didn't move. Instead, I pulled up our shared Google Calendar. Emily was religious about scheduling, blocking out time for client work, marking deadlines, noting meetings. I scrolled back to January 2023. January 19th. Networking event, downtown, might be late. February 16th. Client dinner, big opportunity. Don't wait up. March 23rd. Industry mixer, amazing connections tonight. Always on Thursdays, always downtown. Always resulting in her coming home after 11 p.m., slightly flushed, talking animatedly about incredible opportunities and game-changing connections. I cross-referenced the dates with the deposits. Every single payment was followed within days by one of these Thursday evening events. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. Where are you? UCLA just scored. Your beer is now officially lonely? I needed more information before I confronted her. 15 years in forensic accounting had taught me that assumptions were dangerous. Evidence was everything. Follow the money, always follow the money. I remembered something from last year. Emily had mentioned getting a second business credit card for better expense tracking. I'd thought nothing of it at the time. Lots of business owners used multiple cards to separate different types of expenses. She'd said it was on the advice of her accountant friend, Sandra. I didn't have access to that card's statements, but I knew Emily's password patterns. She wasn't particularly creative with them, usually variations of our anniversary date, her birthday, or our first dog's name. It took me 4 tries to guess correctly. The statements loaded, and my world tilted off its axis. Charges at restaurants I'd never heard of. Intimate places in downtown LA with names like The Hidden Room, Whisper, and Midnight Garden. Hotel charges, not overnight stays, but afternoon day rates at boutique hotels. The Shutters in Santa Monica, the Peninsula Beverly Hills, the Ritz-Carlton downtown. There were purchases from Nordstrom, Saks, Agent Provocateur. I had to Google that last one. Lingerie, high-end lingerie. A charge for $1,200 at something called Honey Birdette. More lingerie. January 19th, the first networking event. Dinner charge at the Hidden Room, $287. Wine selection, $95. Same night, Shutters on the Beach Hotel, Santa Monica, day use rate, $350. February 16th, client dinner. Wolfgang Puck downtown, $420. The Ritz-Carlton downtown, spa package, $500. March 23rd, industry mixer. No restaurant charge, but a $400 charge at the Peninsula Beverly Hills, afternoon tea service, and amenities. The pattern continued for 14 months. Thousands of dollars funding a parallel life I knew nothing about. James, seriously, you're missing everything. Emily's voice now had an edge of irritation. I closed all the windows, cleared the browser history, habit from my forensic work, and walked to the living room. She was curled on our cream-colored sectional, a beer waiting for me on the coffee table, the game in full swing. She looked so normal, so much like the woman I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. Sorry, I said, sitting down but maintaining distance between us. Got caught up in something. It's Sunday, babe. Taxes can wait. She scooted closer, tucking herself under my arm in that familiar way she had. Besides, you always get us a great refund. Remember last year? We used it for that amazing trip to Napa. Napa. Where she'd been on her phone constantly, texting someone about what she claimed was a client emergency. Her phone had buzzed all through our wine tastings during our romantic dinners, even during the couple's massage I'd booked as a surprise. I wondered now who had really been on the other end of those urgent messages. We watched the game in relative silence. Emily cheered at appropriate moments, groaned at bad calls, seemed entirely present and engaged. She kept her hand on my thigh, occasionally squeezing during exciting plays, completely comfortable and affectionate. Meanwhile, my mind was racing through implications, consequences, next steps. During a commercial break, she turned to me, studying my face. You okay? You seem really distracted. Is everything all right with the taxes? Just thinking about a client situation, I lied. Potential audit issue. Complex stuff. On a Sunday? Oh, James. She reached up to touch my face, her fingers gentle against my cheek. You work too hard. That's why I love you, though. So dedicated. So trustworthy. My rock. Trustworthy. The words sat between us like a loaded gun. UCLA won by 12 points. Emily was ecstatic, doing her victory dance that usually made me laugh. This silly little shimmy she'd done since college. Tonight, watching her celebrate, it felt like watching a stranger wearing my wife's face. I'm going to finish up some work, I said when the game ended. On Sunday night? Come on, stay with me. We could open that bottle of Camus we've been saving, maybe watch a movie. That new thriller you wanted to see is on Netflix now. Rain check, I said, already heading back to my office. James. She followed me down the hallway. Is something wrong? You've been weird all evening. Did I do something? The innocence in her voice, the concern in her eyes, it was perfect. If I hadn't seen those credit card statements, those deposits, those LLC registrations, I would have believed her completely. Everything's fine, I said, kissing her forehead. Just need to finish something for tomorrow. Early meeting. She looked unconvinced but didn't push. Okay, don't stay up too late. I love you. Love you too, I said automatically, the words ash in my mouth. Once alone in my office, I did what I should have done an hour ago. I went deeper. 2022 tax returns. I pulled up the files, cross-referenced with bank statements. Different pattern, but same structure. Regular deposits from something called Meridian Design Group. I searched the business registry. Owner, Bradley Morrison, using a different address, a P.O. box in Beverly Hills. $28,000 that year, all unreported on our joint return. 2021, Creative Solutions Partnership. Bradley Morrison again, yet another address. $17,000, $75,000 over 3 years, all from the same man, all hidden from me, all constituting federal tax fraud. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of it crushing. This wasn't just an affair, though that was becoming crystal clear. This was systematic deception involving multiple legal entities, unreported income, tax evasion. The kind of crimes that destroyed lives, ended careers, resulted in federal prosecution. The irony was breathtaking. I'd spent my entire career helping corporations stay on the right side of tax law. I'd sat in countless meetings explaining why proper documentation was essential, why every transaction needed a paper trail, why the IRS was not an entity you wanted to cross. And all the while, my own wife had been committing the very crimes I helped others avoid. I picked up my phone and scrolled to Marcus Williams, a tax attorney I'd worked with on several corporate cases. Marcus was brilliant, discreet, and owed me several favors from when I'd helped him navigate complex audits for mutual clients. Marcus, it's James Westbrook. I know it's Sunday night, but I need a consultation. First thing tomorrow morning, and Marcus, it's personal. There was a pause. Personal how? I may need to file for innocent spouse relief. The silence stretched longer this time. Marcus knew exactly what that meant. That my spouse had committed tax fraud, that our marriage was effectively over, that I was trying to protect myself from the fallout. My office, 7 a.m., he said. James, I'm sorry. Yeah, I said, staring at the evidence spread across my desk. Me too. I slept in the guest room that night, claiming I was coming down with something and didn't want Emily to catch it. She brought me tea and cold medicine, fussed over me with what seemed like genuine concern. You work too hard, she said, sitting on the edge of the bed, her hand cool against my forehead. Maybe you should take tomorrow off. I can cancel my morning meetings, make you soup. I have an early meeting, I said. Important client. Can't reschedule. More important than your health? She gave me that look, the one that used to melt my resolve. I worry about you, James. You're so focused on taking care of everyone else, your clients, me. You forget to take care of yourself. The irony of her concern, Her performance of the devoted wife while hiding a 3-year affair and massive tax fraud made me feel physically ill. "I'll be fine," I said. "Get some sleep." She leaned down to kiss me goodnight, and I turned my head so her lips found my cheek instead of my mouth. If she noticed, she didn't comment, but I saw something flicker in her eyes. Confusion, maybe, or the first hint of suspicion. Monday morning came gray and overcast, unusual for Southern California in April. I was out of the house by 6:30, leaving a note that I had an early meeting. Emily was still asleep, or pretending to be. I'd heard her moving around in our bedroom during the night, probably wondering why I'd chosen the guest room. Marcus's office was in a glass tower in Century City, all clean lines and modern art. His assistant wasn't in yet, so he made the coffee himself, strong and black, the way we both liked it. "Show me what you've got," he said, and I laid out everything. Bank statements, deposit records, the LLC registrations, the credit card statements, the calendar patterns. Marcus reviewed each document methodically, his expression growing more serious with each page. "James, this is textbook tax evasion," he said finally. "The pattern of concealment, the multiple entities, the substantial amounts. This shows willfulness. This isn't an oversight or aggressive interpretation. This is criminal conduct. What's my exposure?" He leaned back in his leather chair, fingers steepled. "If you file jointly for 2023, you're potentially liable for all taxes, penalties, and interest on the unreported income. We're talking, let me calculate, roughly $35,000 in taxes, another $15,000 in penalties, plus interest. The IRS could come after your assets, your wages, everything. Your professional licenses would definitely be at risk. No state board is going to let a CPA who filed fraudulent returns keep practicing." "I didn't know about any of this," I said. "I believe you. But proving innocent spouse relief isn't automatic. You need to demonstrate that you had no knowledge of the unreported income and didn't benefit from it." He gestured at the credit card statements. "These help. All the purchases were clearly personal to her. The separate account helps too. But James, you're a CPA. The IRS might argue you should have known that a reasonable person with your expertise would have detected this. So what do I do? File separately for 2023. Today, if possible. Protect yourself first. Then we document everything. Create a clear paper trail showing when you discovered the fraud and how you responded. And James." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "You need to decide if you're going to report this. Report my own wife to the IRS? Your soon-to-be ex-wife," he corrected. "Who committed federal crimes that could destroy your career? Form 3949A Information Referral. You can file it anonymously, though in your case, it might be better to be upfront about being the reporting party. Shows good faith, cooperation." "What about the marriage?" Marcus gave me a look that said everything. "What marriage? She's been lying to you for 3 years minimum. The tax fraud is just the financial component. The Thursday nights, the hotel charges, the lingerie. James, you know what this is?" I did know. But knowing and accepting are different things. "Give me a few days to think about it," I said. "Don't take too long," Marcus warned. "Every day you wait after discovering this is a day the IRS could interpret as complicity. File separately today. Protect yourself, then we figure out next steps." I drove to my office on autopilot. My assistant, Janet, took one look at me and held all my calls. "You look terrible," she said. "Are you sick?" "Something like that," I said. I closed my office door and spent the morning preparing my separate tax return. It was straightforward. My W-2 income, standard deductions, nothing complicated. Nothing fraudulent. I e-filed it by noon, officially disconnecting myself from Emily's crimes, at least for the current tax year. The amended returns for previous years would be more complicated. Marcus had given me the name of another attorney, Catherine Park, who specialized in innocent spouse relief cases. "She's the best," he'd said. "If anyone can protect you from this, it's Catherine." I called her that afternoon. She agreed to meet me the next day. That evening, I went home to a house that felt like a stage set. Emily had made dinner. Salmon with that mango salsa I loved, asparagus, wild rice. She'd set the table in the dining room instead of our usual casual kitchen counter meal. Candles were lit. Music was playing softly. "What's the occasion?" I asked, suspicious of the timing. "No occasion. I just felt like we needed a nice dinner. You seemed stressed yesterday, and I wanted to do something special." She'd changed into a dress, the blue one I'd bought her for her birthday last year. "Plus, I landed a huge new client today, worth celebrating." "Oh? Who's the client?" "A tech startup in Santa Monica. They need a complete rebrand. It's a 6-month project. Really good money." She poured wine, the good Cabernet we usually saved for special occasions. "They're paying a monthly retainer of $3,500. I wondered if this was another Bradley Morrison entity, another layer of deception. "That's great. Did they sign a contract?" "Working on it. You know how these startups are, they move fast and handle paperwork later." She raised her glass. "To new opportunities." I clinked my glass against hers, the sound sharp in the quiet room. "To the truth," I said. She tilted her head, confused. "The truth?" "Just something we say at work. To the truth in numbers." We ate in relative silence. Emily tried to maintain conversation, talking about her day, asking about mine, but there was a tension in the air, like the electricity before a storm. She kept refilling my wine glass, watching me with eyes that seemed to be searching for something. "James," she said finally, "what's going on? You're scaring me. You slept in the guest room. You've barely touched your dinner. You won't look at me. Did I do something wrong?" The question hung there. Did I do something wrong? Such a simple question with such a complicated answer. "I filed our taxes today," I said. "Oh, good. What's our refund look like?" "I filed separately." Her fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "Separately? Why would you do that?" "Morrison Creative LLC," I said simply. The color drained from her face so quickly I thought she might faint. Her fork clattered to her plate. "James, Meridian Design Group, Creative Solutions Partnership, $75,000 over 3 years, Emily. All unreported. All from Bradley Morrison." She was shaking now, tears starting to flow. "You don't understand." "Then explain it to me. Explain why Bradley Morrison has been paying you $2,500 a month for services you can't document. Explain the Thursday nights. Explain the hotel charges, the lingerie purchases, the dinners at restaurants I've never heard of." "It's not what you think." "No? Then what is it? Consulting work that requires afternoon rates at the peninsula? Design services that necessitate $1,200 in lingerie? Networking events that happen to coincide with every payment from his LLCs?" She was sobbing now, ugly, chest-heaving sobs. "It started as real work. I swear to God, James, it started as a legitimate project. He hired me to rebrand his company. But then, things developed. We had history. We knew each other in college. He was going through his divorce. I was feeling neglected because you were always working. So you committed tax fraud? You jeopardized my career, our future, everything we built together because I worked too much? I didn't think of it as tax fraud. He said it was easier to pay me through his company, that it was all legal, that—" "You're a business owner, Emily. You know income has to be reported. You know payments need documentation. You've been filing taxes for over a decade. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending you didn't know this was wrong." She stood up, mascara running down her cheeks. "Fine, you want the truth? I had an affair. I fell in love with someone who actually paid attention to me, who didn't treat me like a line item in a spreadsheet. Bradley made me feel desired, special, alive. When's the last time you looked at me the way you look at your spreadsheets, James?" "So you risked federal prison for feeling special?" "I didn't think about the taxes. The money just happened. He wanted to help me, support me. He said it was an investment in my business." "An investment that required hotel rooms and lingerie?" She collapsed back into her chair. "What are you going to do?" I pulled out the papers I'd prepared that afternoon. "You're going to file amended returns for all 3 years. You're going to report every penny of income from Bradley Morrison's various LLCs. You're going to pay the taxes, penalties, and interest, all of it. By my calculation, that's approximately $60,000. $60,000? James, I don't have that kind of money. Then you'll figure it out. Borrow it from Bradley, sell your car, liquidate your retirement accounts. I don't care how you get it. Because if you don't file these amendments within 48 hours, I'm submitting this. I placed Form 3949A on the table. Information referral to the IRS. I report the tax evasion. They investigate, and you face criminal prosecution. You wouldn't. You loved me. Loved. Past tense. You killed that love with every lie, every Thursday night, every deposit you didn't report. I stood up. 48 hours, Emily. File the amendments or face the consequences. Where are you going? Hotel. I'll be back for my things later this week. James, please. We can work through this. Couples therapy, anything. There's no we anymore, Emily. You made sure of that when you chose him and chose to hide it through tax fraud. I packed a bag while she sat at the dining room table, crying. As I was leaving, she called out, I did love you, you know. Despite everything, I did love you. Maybe you did, I said. But you loved yourself more. The hotel room was sterile, impersonal, perfect for my needs. I sat on the bed with my laptop, preparing my innocent spouse relief documentation. Marcus had been right. This would end my marriage. But Emily had ended it first. She just hadn't filed the paperwork. Tuesday morning, I met with Catherine Park. She was everything Marcus had promised, sharp, experienced, and unsympathetic to tax evaders. Your wife put you in an impossible position, she said, reviewing my documents. The good news is you have strong grounds for innocent spouse relief. The separate accounts, the documentation showing when you discovered the fraud, your immediate action to file separately, it all works in your favor. What about my professional licenses? As long as you can demonstrate you had no knowledge of the unreported income and took immediate action upon discovery, you should be fine. The board understands that even CPAs can be deceived by their spouses. You wouldn't be the first. What's the timeline? File for divorce immediately. Cite the tax fraud as constructive abandonment. Request an unequal division of assets based on her dissipation of marital assets and the financial liability she's created. The divorce needs to be in motion before the IRS gets involved. And if she doesn't file the amendments? Catherine looked at me steadily. Then you report it. Better to be the whistleblower than the accomplice. Emily texted me 37 times over the next 2 days. I didn't respond to any of them. The messages ranged from apologetic to angry to desperate. Please come home so we can talk. I'm filing the amendments today. I can't believe you're throwing away 12 years. Bradley means nothing to me. You're heartless. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The accountant says I'll owe $62,000. How could you do this to me? I filed them. It's done. Please call me. That last text came at 11:47 p.m. on Wednesday night, just under the 48-hour deadline. I forwarded it to Catherine as evidence. Thursday morning, I filed for divorce. My attorney, recommended by Catherine, was aggressive in his approach. Tax fraud is economic misconduct, he explained. In California, that can override the community property presumption. We're going to argue that her deliberate concealment of assets and income, combined with the tax liability she created, constitutes breach of fiduciary duty. We'll seek an unequal division in your favor. What about the house? You're keeping it. She can't afford it anyway, not with the IRS debt she's about to carry. We're also going to freeze the joint accounts immediately, prevent her from dissipating any more marital assets. The divorce papers were served to Emily at her office on Friday afternoon. The process server said she signed for them without a word, tears streaming down her face. She called me immediately. Was the process server necessary? You could have just told me. My attorney advised no direct contact. Your attorney? God, James, what have we become? You became a tax evader and an adulteress. I became your victim. Now I'm becoming your ex-husband. I ended it with Bradley. I don't care. He won't return my calls. Says his lawyer told him not to have any contact with me. Smart lawyer. James, please. I made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but 12 years has to count for something. It counted for everything. That's why this betrayal is so complete. I hung up. 6 weeks later, the IRS audit notice arrived at what had been our home. Emily forwarded it to me with a note. They're investigating everything. Criminal division. You did this. No, I thought. You did this. I just refused to be collateral damage. The audit was comprehensive. 3 years of returns under microscope examination. Emily hired Gerald Fitzgerald, one of the best criminal tax attorneys in Los Angeles. His retainer alone was $50,000. I knew because she'd tried to pay it from our joint account before I'd frozen my participation. Gerald called me once, trying to feel out whether I'd cooperate in minimizing Emily's exposure. Your wife made mistakes, Mr. Westbrook, but destroying her life won't undo them. She destroyed her own life, I replied. I'm just protecting mine. The IRS might be lenient if you presented a united front. We're divorcing. There is no united front. I see. His tone turned cold. You know, a vindictive spouse can make these situations much worse. And a criminal spouse can destroy an innocent person's career. I'll take my chances. The investigation expanded, as IRS investigations do. Once they smell blood in the water, they circle. Emily's business deductions came under scrutiny. Was that home office really used exclusively for work? Were those client dinners legitimate? Once you've proven yourself willing to lie about income, every line item becomes suspect. Bradley Morrison got pulled in too. His LLC's expenses were audited, the payments to Emily reclassified as personal gifts rather than business expenses. Without documentation of actual work performed, those deductions were disallowed. He faced his own penalties, his own amendments, his own spiral of consequences. I learned about their relationship in detail through the divorce discovery process. Emily's attorney was required to produce all communications relevant to the hidden assets. The emails between Emily and Bradley painted a picture of a relationship that was transactional from the start. From Bradley, February 2021. The arrangement works perfectly. You get financial support for your business. I get you. Everyone wins. From Emily, March 2021. The money is helpful, but that's not why I'm doing this. You know that, right? From Bradley, March 2021. Of course. But let's not pretend the money doesn't make it easier. It always does. There were hundreds of emails, texts, WhatsApp messages, pictures from their Thursday nights, Emily in dresses I'd never seen, at restaurants I'd never heard of, smiling in ways I hadn't seen in years. In one, Bradley's hand rested possessively on her lower back as they stood on a terrace overlooking the Los Angeles skyline. The most painful discovery was an email chain from 6 months before I discovered the fraud. Emily. James is getting suspicious about Thursday nights. Maybe we should cool it for a while. Bradley. Tell him you're networking, building your business. He's always supported your career, right? Emily. I hate lying to him. Bradley. Then don't think of it as lying. Think of it as protecting him from information that would only hurt him. Emily. The payments are getting harder to explain. He does our taxes. Bradley. Make something up if you have to. Create some invoices. He trusts you completely. He trusts you completely. Those words haunted me. The absolute confidence with which Bradley had weaponized my trust. The casual way he'd advised my wife to defraud both me and the federal government. The divorce proceedings were brutal but swift. California is a community property state, but tax fraud changes the calculus. My attorney was surgical in his approach, documenting every hidden payment, every secret purchase, every Thursday night networking event. During Emily's deposition, the truth came out in excruciating detail. The affair had started at a UCLA alumni event in December 2020. Bradley was newly divorced, wealthy, looking for excitement. Emily was feeling neglected. I'd been working 80-hour weeks on a major corporate fraud case, ironically enough. He paid attention to me, she said in the deposition, her voice flat and defeated. He made me feel like I mattered, like I was more than just the wife who waited at home while James saved corporations from their financial crimes. And the payments, my attorney asked. Started small. He'd pay for things, dinners, gifts. Then he offered to help with my business, said he could send clients my way. The first project was real, a legitimate rebrand for his company. But after that, she paused. After that, the payments just continued. He said it was easier than creating fake projects, said it was all legal because it was coming from his business. Did you believe that? I wanted to believe it. I needed to believe it. Because otherwise, I was just. She stopped, unable to finish. Just what, Mrs. Westbrook? Just a kept woman. Just another cliche? The trophy mistress of a rich divorce? The judge in our divorce case was named Harriet Chen, and despite sharing Emily's maiden name, she showed no sympathy for my soon-to-be ex-wife's position. Mrs. Westbrook, the judge said during the final hearing, you've not only violated federal tax law, but also the fundamental trust of marriage. Your actions exposed Mr. Westbrook to significant financial and professional liability. The court finds this conduct unconscionable. The division was devastating for Emily. I kept the house, the retirement accounts, the investments. She got her business assets, what was left of them under IRS lien, and her personal belongings. The debt from the tax fraud was hers alone to bear. This isn't fair, Emily said outside the courthouse, mascara running down her cheeks. 12 years, James. Doesn't that count for anything? It counted for everything, I told her. That's why this hurts so much. I loved you, she said. Despite everything, I did love you. You loved the life I provided, I corrected. You loved the security, the house, the comfort, but you didn't love me enough to be honest with me. That's not true. Emily, you risked my entire career rather than give up your affair. You committed federal crimes rather than report the income. You destroyed our marriage for $75,000 and Thursday nights with Bradley. If that's love, I don't want it. Bradley Morrison fled to Arizona when his own tax situation imploded. The IRS doesn't take kindly to people who falsely claim personal expenses as business deductions, especially when those expenses are payments to a mistress. His business couldn't survive the scrutiny, the penalties, the reputation damage once word spread through LA's incestuous creative community. The last I heard, he was working as a freelance designer in Phoenix, living in a one-bedroom apartment, his ex-wife having successfully sued to increase child support based on the unreported income the IRS discovered. He'd tried to hide assets during his divorce, claiming poverty while maintaining Emily as a mistress. The IRS audit revealed everything. Emily's plea deal came 8 months after our divorce was finalized. The federal prosecutor, perhaps influenced by the amounts involved being just under the threshold for more serious charges, offered 2 years probation, $75,000 in restitution beyond the taxes and penalties already assessed, and 300 hours of community service. You're fortunate, Mrs. Westbrook, the judge said during sentencing. The government could have pursued imprisonment. This lenience comes with conditions. You'll submit to financial monitoring. You're prohibited from self-employment during probation, and any future tax violations will result in immediate incarceration. Emily nodded, diminished in her conservative suit, a far cry from the designer clothes she'd once favored. The IRS had placed lions on her accounts, garnished her wages from the bookkeeping job she'd managed to find. At $35,000 a year, the payment plan would take a decade to complete. I attended the sentencing, sitting in the back of the courtroom. She saw me as she was led out, our eyes meeting across the room. She looked older, exhausted, defeated. For a moment, I saw the woman I'd married 13 years ago, young and ambitious and full of dreams. Then the moment passed, and she was just another tax evader facing the consequences of her choices. A year later, I was having lunch with Rebecca, an IRS attorney I'd met during my innocent spouse relief proceedings. We'd started dating 6 months after my divorce was final. She found my story fascinating from a tax law perspective, which had somehow led to dinner, Then more dinners, then a relationship built on radical honesty and shared professional interests. I can't believe she thought she'd get away with it, Rebecca said, reviewing the case details I'd shared. 75,000 in unreported income with a CPA husband? That's either incredibly stupid or incredibly arrogant. Both, I said. She convinced herself it wasn't really income because it was from her lover. Like the personal nature of the relationship somehow exempted it from tax law. The IRS doesn't care if it's from your lover, your mother, or the Pope, Rebecca said. Income is income. We were at a restaurant in Pasadena when I saw Emily again. She was sitting alone at a corner table, picking at a salad, wearing clothes I recognized from years ago. She looked up, our eyes met, and for a moment I thought she might approach. Instead, she simply nodded, a small, defeated gesture, and returned to her meal. Someone you know? Rebecca asked. Someone I used to know, I corrected. That night, Rebecca and I attended a continuing education seminar on tax fraud detection. I was presenting, actually. My experience had made me something of an expert on the warning signs of unreported income in married filing jointly situations. The room was full of CPAs and tax attorneys, all taking careful notes as I outlined the red flags. The hardest part, I told the audience, is accepting that someone you trust completely is capable of such deception. We want to believe our spouses, our clients, our friends, but numbers don't lie. Follow the numbers, always. During the conda, someone asked, "How do you maintain professional objectivity when it's personal?" I thought about Emily, about 12 years of marriage reduced to spreadsheets of fraud, about Thursday nights when I'd believed she was building her business while she was destroying our future, about the $75,000 that had cost her everything: career, marriage, reputation, freedom. You remember that protecting yourself isn't vindictive, I answered. It's necessary. The person who put you in that position made their choice. You're just choosing not to be their victim. But what about forgiveness? Another attendee asked. What about second chances? Forgiveness is a personal choice, I said. But when someone commits tax fraud and exposes you to criminal liability, forgiveness doesn't mean accepting that risk. You can forgive someone and still protect yourself. You can wish them well from a distance while ensuring their crimes don't destroy your life too. The seminar ended with applause. Several attendees approached afterward, sharing their own stories of discovering fraud, thanking me for my honesty. 3 years after the divorce, I received a wedding invitation in the mail. Emily was marrying someone new, a contractor she'd met at her bookkeeping job. The invitation included a handwritten note. James, I know things ended badly between us, but you were a significant part of my life for 12 years. I've learned from my mistakes, paid my debts, still paying actually, and I'm trying to build something honest this time. I'd understand if you don't come, but I wanted you to know I'm grateful for the good years we had. They were real, even if the end wasn't. Emily. I marked the RSVP card, unable to attend, and put it in the mail. Some chapters, once closed, should remain that way. Rebecca and I married the following spring in a small ceremony at the courthouse. We signed our marriage certificate with the same pen we used for our tax documents, a small joke about transparency and trust. Our prenuptial agreement was comprehensive, our financial disclosures complete, our expectations clear. I promise to always report all my income, Rebecca said in her vows, getting a laugh from the small gathering of friends and family who knew our story. And I promise to always file accurately, I responded. It wasn't traditional, but it was honest. And after what I'd been through, honesty was the most romantic thing I could imagine. We filed jointly, Rebecca and I, but with full visibility into every account, every transaction, every Thursday night. She jokes that being married to a CPA who's been burned means living under constant audit, but she understands. She's seen enough tax fraud cases to know that financial infidelity often accompanies the other kind. Trust, but verify, she says, our household motto. The Morrison Creative LLC story became something of a legend in Los Angeles accounting circles. The CPA, who discovered his wife's tax fraud and chose his license over his marriage. The woman who lost everything for $75,000 in unreported income. The reminder that no amount of money is worth your freedom, your reputation, your future. I still prepare taxes, still help clients navigate the complex world of federal and state requirements. But now I look for the signs I missed in my own life. The too convenient explanations, the defensive responses to routine questions, the patterns that don't quite add up. Last month, I had a client come in, worried about his wife's spending. She'd opened credit cards he didn't know about, was hiding purchases, being secretive about money. Is she having an affair? He asked. I don't know, I said. But I can tell you this, financial infidelity and romantic infidelity often go hand in hand. Follow the money. It always tells the truth. He hired a forensic accountant, not me, I don't do domestic cases anymore, and discovered his wife had been funding her sister's gambling addiction, hiding almost $100,000 in debts. Not an affair, but a betrayal nonetheless. He filed for divorce, protected his assets, saved his credit and his future. Thank you, he said later. You saved my life. No, I corrected. You saved your own life by facing the truth. That's the lesson Emily taught me, though not the one she intended. The truth, like taxes, always comes due. You can defer it, hide it, try to evade it, but eventually the audit comes. And when it does, only those with clean books survive intact. My books are clean now. My life is transparent. My marriage is built on verified trust rather than blind faith. Every April, when tax season rolls around, I'm reminded that the best defense against fraud isn't just documentation. It's choosing a partner who would never ask you to file a false return in the first place. Sometimes I think about Emily, wonder how she's doing with her new husband, whether she's learned to be honest, whether she reports all her income now. But then I remember those Thursday nights, those hidden deposits, those 75,000 reasons why my trust was betrayed. And I stop wondering. The Morrison Creative LLC affair, financial and otherwise, was the most expensive education I ever received. It cost me a marriage, a house full of memories, 12 years of my life. But it taught me the most valuable lesson of my career. That in tax law, as in marriage, the truth isn't just the best policy. It's the only one that doesn't end in federal prosecution. And that's a return that's worth every penny of the price I paid to learn it.